Do real estate agents make money on foreclosure? Welcome back. Now, in this episode, I'm going to answer your question: do real estate agents make money on foreclosures? I'm Ted Thomas, and for the last 30 years, I've been involved in some type of real estate that was in tax liens and tax deeds. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about foreclosure because I spent a lot of time in that business before I get into tax liens and tax deeds. Now, everything I'm going to talk about is legal and ethical, and this is a good way to make money. The tax lien and deed business. The foreclosure business is a lot tougher than this. Now, when you buy tax liens and tax deeds, you really help the community, because if you buy a tax lien certificate, the people get to stay in the property, and of course the county gets some money from you, and then you make a nice big paycheck. It'll be a lot different than that in the foreclosure part of the business. Now, once I discovered tax lien certificates and tax deeds, I completely changed, because I could buy property for 5, 10, 20 cents on the dollar. So that changed all of my strategies, because those properties came to me without a mortgage. Now, in the foreclosure business, when there's an auction in foreclosure, what you're really doing is you're buying the bank's bad loan. In other words, the bank foreclosed, and now they're trying to get their money back, and the money you pay at a foreclosure auction pays the bank back. All right, this is a whole different story in the tax lien and deed business, because there is no mortgage, so that really gives you a much better deal. So today I'm answering the question: do real estate agents make money on foreclosures? The correct answer to that is yes, they do, and I'm going to tell you about that in kind of a step-by-step process. But before I do that, I want you to know at the end of this video, I'll have a gift for you, and the gift will show you how to buy tax lien certificates and make really secret profits. But over on the tax deed side of it, it'll show you how to buy properties without a mortgage. So stay with me over the next few minutes. I'll tell you about that. But before I go, I want you to know I'm also going to tell you how not to make mistakes at the tax defaulted auction. Now, a lot of newcomers and experienced people have big problems at those auctions. I'll show you how to avoid those mistakes. I'll be right back. Well, a lot of people are wondering that, so let's see if we can get you through that and so that you understand that. Hopefully, it's not a real estate agent asking that question, because I know what they're in business for. They're in business to make money, and I get it. But nationwide, real estate is really kind of a big boom-bust business. Now, during the good times, the individual states, if you combine them all together, they'll have 1 million real estate agents. Can you imagine? 1 million real estate. But in the bad times, a lot of those people put that license on hold, and they'll drop all the way down to 500,000. All right, but there's plenty of real estate agents, and they all want to make money. So the ones that don't do well enough to pay the office rent and buy a car and so on, they couldn't feed their family, so they put their license on hold. All right, now there's enough money for everybody in the real estate business, but the foreclosure business has huge ups and downs. Okay, it's a difficult business. It's not easy. Everybody thinks it's easy, and there's a lot of late night television telling you, oh, it's great, you got to buy foreclosures, you make a ton of money. Remember, if you buy at a foreclosure auction, you're paying off a huge bank loan. That's what you're doing. The money goes directly to the bank. Now, at the auctions, the brokers aren't going to make money, but the brokers will make money if they can find the distressed property after it's gone to the bank and sell it to a retail client. I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, the foreclosure process is a legal process. That means there's attorneys involved, there's a judge involved. So that's what mortgage foreclosures. Now, a deed of trust foreclosure is a matter of timing, and I'll explain both of them so that you understand. But the question I'm answering today is simply this: do real estate agents make money on foreclosure? The answer to that is yes, they can make money on foreclosure, but they're going to have to go to the bank and see if they can sell the bank property. Or they're going to have to go to HUD. HUD is HUD, which stands for Housing and Urban Development. That's an agency of the United States government, and they have thousands of properties nationwide because they're a lender, and they lend low interest loans. Not so much interest is low, but the down payments are low. So a lot of people buy those properties, but they don't understand what it costs to own a home, and the property goes back to HUD. So they have lots of them to sell. Now, I've seen foreclosures during the time I was doing that business where there was as many as 1,000 foreclosures, defaults, in the city of Los Angeles in 1 week. So that was 52,000 in 1 year. Now, places like Harris County in Houston or Miami-Dade, same kind of thing. thousands of these foreclosures. Now, the banks get those properties back, and that's where the agents make their money. Now, when you go to a foreclosure auction, it's really a sheriff's sale. The sheriff is selling the property for what's owed to the bank. Now, if the bank is making 97% loans, I don't think you want to buy a property with a 97% loan on it starting day one. So that's a tough business for the brokers to try to sell those. Now, foreclosure auctions are conducted daily across the United States. They're called sheriff sales in most places. Now, there's a number of states that use a deed of trust as the lending device. Now, that would be Texas and states like that. Now, when those deed of trust auctions come up, it's called a trustee sale, so that you know. Now, can the brokers make money there? Can the agents make money there? Yes, they can make money after the auction, after it goes to the bank, but they're not going to make any money at the auction. All right, so in today's episode, the question I'm answering is, do real estate agents make money on foreclosure? Yes, they can, but it's not a big money business. They get paid commissions when they find buyers. Now, I'm not going to suggest that it's an easy business for those brokers. Selling a defaulted property is not actually a piece of cake, especially when you have to ask high dollars, and especially when it has a big loan on it. All right, so do real estate agents have access to HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development Properties? Absolutely. Matter of fact, most of them are sold that way, and they're sold because they have special financing. They don't discount them very much. Like a tax auction, we buy properties at 60, 70, 80, even 90% discounts. Whereas you're buying from HUD or you're buying from a bank, you might be paying 60, 70, or 80% of that loan. So you're going to pay a lot more at a foreclosure auction. Now, when I discovered the taxing and deed business, I reevaluated all my investments, and I got in that business and stopped doing foreclosures. You wouldn't know this, but I've written best-selling books on it, and that was 30 years ago. All right, so most of these first-time home buyers, they need money to get started, and they don't have it. So there are a lot of lenders that will lend 97% of the value of the property. Now, when a lender does that, there's a big crisis coming up if that person loses a job or they get a divorce or they have some crisis. They won't be able to make the payment. If they don't make the payment, there will be a foreclosure, all right? The foreclosure is going to be a sheriff's sale. That means they're going to take the property to auction. When the auction is completed, the bank or the lender will own the property. But they'll also own a property that may be used and abused. They'll also own a property that might be damaged because people blame all their troubles on the bank. And they also might own a property that now has a huge loan on it. So now what is the bank going to do? Well, they're going to have to try and sell it. I don't think there's very many people out there that want to pay retail for houses that are abused and have big loans on them. So you understand that's not an easy business. So the real estate agents can make money because they make it on commissions, but it's not an easy job or something that I would recommend for anybody. Now, if the property has a low down payment and they get a government loan and the people don't pay, it's a challenge. Now, it's a big challenge. So it's not unusual for people to get a 3% loan. Well, 3% doesn't sound like very much, but it's $6,000 on a $200,000 average sale price. All right, but if you get average sale price of 20% down, now the people put down 40%. If they put down 40%, their chances of going to foreclosure are a lot less than they were if there was 3%. So you're getting the idea. So people that put down good down payments, their chances of going in foreclosure are much less. Does it still happen? Yes, because people have difficulties. All right, so now where are we? Where are we with the agents? Well, the agents can make money on foreclosures, but they're going to have to do most of it from a bank and from HUD and from maybe they can try and sell someone's house and get rid of it before the foreclosure happens. Okay, this is not an easy business for any agent. So if they really wanted to make money, there's lots of other ways to do it. Now, there are not a lot of bargains out there because who wants to pay for all that financing? I'm sure you're getting the idea. Now, 97% loans are the norm right now in the business, and so those banks are taking tremendous risk. If they get the property back, not only will they have a property that's used and abused, but it's not going to sell. So they're either going to have to discount it and take a short sale. The bank could easily lose money on that property. So what does the bank do? They go to the federal government and ask them to guarantee it. Because if they take it back at the auction, they want to sell it, they're going to have a problem. There's attorney's fees for doing the foreclosure. There's going to be trustee fees. There's going to be bank fees. There's going to be so many things. In other words, they're probably going to own that property at 110 or 120% of its value. folks, you don't want to own property at 120% of its value. How could you ever sell it? It's not going to happen. So there's a lot of bank properties, and that's how agents make their money on foreclosure. Very difficult business for them to do. Okay, now, about 30 years ago, I discovered the business of tax lien certificates and tax deeds. Much different business. It's very stable, doesn't go up and down like the real estate business. It's very stable, and all the auctions are conducted by the county at the local level. So that makes it good, makes it very stable. You know, the same people are doing the same thing. Whereas real estate auctions for foreclosures, those are happening every single week in every single county in America. There is absolutely thousands of those, but if you buy at that auction, you're basically paying off a huge loan. So that means you're going to probably have to pay 50 or 60 or 70% of the value, whereas we're trying to get 60, 70, 80% discounts when we buy at tax defaulted auction. So you see there's quite a difference, and there's no up and down. So a lot more advantages to it. So when I found out 30 years ago I could buy property for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar at tax auctions with no mortgage, then I started saying, I'm going to change, and I was all in to go into the tax lien and deed business. Now the counties, they're a little bit on the old-fashioned side, but they're slowly changing. So we buy directly from the county. We invest with the county. If we're buying a tax lien certificate, we get money back from the county. Or if we go to a tax defaulted auction, we buy from the county and we get a 60, 70, sometimes 80% or higher discount on that property, and there's no mortgage. So let me say that again. A tax auction has no mortgage, and what you're doing at a foreclosure auction is you're paying the bank a bunch of money. So there's a world of difference between those two sales. All right, so if you're an entrepreneur or a maverick, I'm going to say take a good look at that foreclosure business, but if you have to pay 50 and 70 cents on the dollar, you're going to have a tough time making money. So that's why I refer people to the tax lien and deed business. All right, now foreclosures, if you're a broker, you have to disclose everything under the sun. It's a foreclosure, what's wrong with it, whatever. And so that puts agents at a distinct disadvantage. And very few of them will ever go to a tax auction because they don't want to have to do the disclosure of where they bought it at a tax auction, because a client needs to know that. You need to disclose all that kind of information. And brokers don't like that because they don't trust the tax auction. Okay, so I'm about to button it up right now, but before I do, I want to answer a couple of questions from the audience. How soon before an auction takes place should you look at the property? Well, if you're looking at tax defaulted property, I would suggest you do it 7, 10 days ahead of time, not months ahead of time. And why would I say shortly before? Because what if there's some crises? By that I mean, what if a hurricane is going to take place? Or what if there was a big storm? Or if more than anything else, you should look at it because it might be in a bad neighborhood. Remember, you can fix a house, you can't fix a neighborhood. Should you buy a tax lien or a tax deed on a mobile home? Well, of course, what you're talking about is value. If the value of the property in the motor home was, say, $100,000, and you can get it for $10,000, and you've looked at it and you say it looks okay, well, your investment is very low. Now, if you haven't looked at it, don't buy it. But a lot of people look at them and say they're going to fix up mobile homes. Well, you can forget that. You're not talking about sticks. You're talking about pieces of metal to go back together. So that's not going to work out so good. So I don't know anybody. I said I don't know anybody. It doesn't mean other people aren't doing it. There probably are people that know how to fix up mobile homes. But I would suggest you go buy one from them and put it on the lot. So if you're going to buy a mobile home, make sure you're only spending the value of the lot. I'm Ted Thomas. All right, so I talked about 2 mistakes. All right, now the 2 mistakes that you want to avoid is, number 1, don't buy any property that you haven't seen. Why? What if there was a hurricane? What if it was next to a chicken farm? You would not want to own a property next to a chicken farm. It's going to stink. So you would not want. Why you wouldn't you want to own it? Because you're going to have trouble selling it. So it's going to make it a worthless property. All right, so the other mistake is you don't want to bid on any property, number 1, that you haven't seen, but number 2, that you haven't figured out the exit strategy. In other words, you need to know what you're going to sell it for before you buy. You don't want to say to yourself, I think I'll buy this and hope I can sell it high. No, you want to know what you can sell it for, and that'll control your bidding completely. Okay, so my name is Ted Thomas. Free gift for you below. Nice to meet you.